In the previous videos, we discussed the process and factors influencing how people appraise a situation as stressful and in need of a coping response. In this last video, we will cover concepts related to understanding the choice of different coping responses. First, to understand coping responses, we need to differentiate between two different styles, avoidant and approach. An avoidant coping style involves trying to avoid a stressor entirely. Now, rather than talking about physical distance, this is primarily a psychological distancing. That is, rather than running away from the bear, it would be pretending the bear isn't there at all. In more modern situations, people might refuse to talk about the stressor or put off thinking about it, also known as suppression. Ever have an assignment due that you keep weirdly just forgetting about? It's probably because your mind is non-consciously pushing it away in order to avoid the stress of thinking about what you have to do to accomplish the assignment. Parents see this in children all the time, with kids who will simply forget to do undesirable chores. The child isn't necessarily being obstinate, they may just have a strong avoidant coping style. This coping style is actually very effective at dealing with short-term stress. Unfortunately, pulling a blanket over our heads doesn't always make things go away. Eventually, we have to face the music, particularly with chronic sources of stress. And things might be made worse by not taking earlier steps to deal with the stressor. For example, waiting until the night before an assignment is due. I'm slightly embarrassed that I used to do this all the time with parking tickets. Having to pay the fine stressed me out as a poor post-grad, and I didn't want to think about paying, but they just racked up additional fees. In this example, it would have been more productive to choose an approach coping style. This is one in which we consciously take action towards behaviorally or emotionally reducing the stressor. It is also known as confrontative or vigilant coping and has been shown to have short-term costs but long-term payoff. Following the 9/11 attacks, researchers assessed witnesses regarding their level of stress as well as the degree to which they were seeking out people and forums to discuss the event, such as finding friends, family, online support groups, etc. They found that witnesses who sought out more contact had higher levels of stress 1 month later. However, at a 1-year follow-up, those that sought out support showed significantly lower levels of PTSD symptoms than those who simply tried to move on with their lives. The approach focus was better long-term. Approach-focused coping can then be broken down into two further types of coping focuses: problem-focused coping and emotion-focused coping. Problem-focused coping refers to trying to address the stressor or cause of the stress in practical ways, such as running away from the bear, starting the assignment, or paying that pesky parking ticket. It's important to note that this problem-focused coping benefits from a higher internal locus of control and an ability to focus on future improvements rather than past failures, regardless of who dropped the ball. This type of focus is particularly useful when the source of the stress or the outcome is within one's control, and direct actions can benefit the outcome. In less controllable situations, though, problem focus doesn't work as well, leading people to engage in fruitless efforts and/or contributing to repetitive thoughts about what they wish they could be doing to resolve the stressor. This expenditure of physical and mental effort can be detrimental. Therefore, in situations in which the outcome is less controllable or direct action is not beneficial or possible, emotion-focused coping does it better. Emotion-focused coping involves trying to reduce our emotional response to the significance of the stressor. This might include strategies such as downplaying the importance of the outcome, finding the silver lining from a negative outcome, or mentally shifting the experience to gain meaning, purpose, and personal insight. These latter two, known as benefit finding and meaning making respectively, are shown to be hallmarks of successfully overcoming traumatic experiences, such as cancer diagnoses and natural catastrophes. Emotion-focused coping often involves reaching out to socially supportive others, and the 9/11 witnesses example embodies this type of coping response. Taken together, this guidance on whether problem or emotion-focused coping is more useful given the situation can be boiled down to the following flowchart. The first question, is there a problem, represents the primary appraisal step. That is, deciding whether there is anything to be stressed about in the first place. If there is, then one needs to decide whether direct action can have an effect. If not, then choose emotion-focused coping. If so, then there needs to be a decision regarding whether now is the right time and place for that action. Think about when your significant other is angry at you. Sometimes it's best to give them space for a minute. If now is not the right time and place, keep dealing with those emotions. But if now is right, then problem-focused is a good step. So, Next week, we will take a closer look at some of the direct actions that can be taken to reduce stress, as well as address an important resource in both problem and emotion-focused coping, and that is social support.